and welcome to Asia Gaming Brief's face-to-face series. With me today I have Michael Keane, who is the Vice President for Sales at the CTR Group. As a supplier to both the operators and the suppliers, and indeed across all of the industry, he's in a unique position to be able to give us some kind of insight into the current state of play. So welcome, Michael. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sharon.
Would you tell us just a little bit about what you do, just for those who perhaps don't know?
Yeah, so CTR has been around for around about 20 years now. We're an original design manufacturer. We have facilities, a large factory over in China, one over in Hong Kong, and also a large warehouse and integration center in the US, in Las Vegas. We have approximately 300 staff globally, and we're a one-stop solution basically for manufacturing of hardware in the gaming industry. What makes us unique is we only manufacture for gaming hardware. We don't supply any other industries, so it's a very niche product that we have to produce and requires very different tolerances, etc. And that's why we focus on the one.
Well, just over the last week or so, we've had quite a few third quarter results from companies that seem to be showing some kinds of recovery, tentative, but there. What's your sense?
Well, I think from an operator point of view, they'll be the first ones you see come back. As far as anyone who supplies the industry, our look is not positive for the next couple of quarters at least. We don't think we'll see an uptake until a lot of these losses that we've had over the past 6 to 9 months have really been dealt with, and the balance sheet's looking better. So, some industries and some businesses, they've kept their capex and they continue to spend, but I think across the board you've seen already significant wipes. And our numbers that we can see, which is the pull side of it, is definitely down at this stage. So if I was to be optimistic, I'd hope to say second quarter next year, but realistically, I think third and fourth quarter we'll start to see our numbers come back.
Wow, that's protracted indeed. In terms of supply chains, what are you seeing there? What's the impact been on the supply chains?
Well, the supply chain's been very interesting. Most of our business and our clients are actually based in the US. So we've had a double whammy with the past 12 months of trade wars that have occurred between the United States and China in particular, where a lot of our product is sourced. And the first really round of that, we saw everyone jumping to try and remove production out of China and other areas and other countries, other jurisdictions, whatever they tried. One of which we also had the ability to was move a lot of production down to Hong Kong to avoid it. But as you've seen, the US has now turned around and decided to clamp down on that as well. So I guess to anyone who's been fluid in this industry is the ones who are going to be successful over the next couple of years. But as far as logistics are concerned, I mean, everything at the moment is completely out of whack. Shipping costs are through the roof, whether it's from Asia to the US or Australia up to Asia or vice versa. And I think that until we start to see volumes and everything, trade wars settle down, I think that it will continue to be like that.
And what are you seeing, and what are people ordering right now? I mean, it's saying, obviously things are slow, but if you're seeing any particular areas that are in demand, what are you seeing? Well,
I mean, for us, we manufacture both on the electronic gaming, so slot machines, ETG terminals, and also table game side of things. So, look, there hasn't been a lot of buying. Very interestingly, our forecast for existing hardware in the market for older models, they've obviously been cut, so we've seen a lot less of those. But interestingly, the companies seem to be investing a lot of money on building a new product. We saw that recently with the launch of SG's product with Cascada, which was released about 2 weeks ago globally. And there's a lot of other product from various other manufacturers, other suppliers, I should say, that's going to be coming online very soon. So naturally, I would have thought that a lot of them would have dealt with the existing product they have and obviously tried to move through those forecasts and obviously spread them over the next 6 to 12 months. But it seems to me they're willing to cut their losses and actually move forward with new products and try and bring something to the market that's going to be different and innovative.
Amongst those new trends that you're seeing, anything in particular standing out?
I guess the biggest concern, which would be, is natural. I think a lot of them had to change the way they go about their manufacturing, particularly on the types of materials they're using. There's a lot more of a cost down exercise going on. This is also for existing hardware, but for new product coming up, I can see a lot of materials which maybe would have been a little bit more high end or a little bit more expensive to manufacture have been swapped out with something a little bit cheaper. I think that's also going to be reflective of what the end sales price for these particular products are. It's no good taking something to the market at a high price point when the market's probably not even going to be ready for something at a mid-level for the next sort of 6 months. And that's going to have an impact too on what sort of technologies we see coming out. There's a lot of talk, obviously, with various things. We've seen existing clients, or existing customers, I should say, dabble with hologram, with new 3D and 4D technology on monitors, etc. And I think that a lot of that was coming onto the market to really be something different and stand out as a high-end product. A lot of that would actually be pushed back to another year or two, and it's more so until those particular materials become cheaper.
For that side of things, there must be a lot of R&D costs. Is that where they're putting their money rather than on the actual product side?
The R&D cost for a lot of this, they've got in-house a team already. So as far as spending more money on R&D, I don't think it's a huge stretch for them. It's about what new technology they're presented to by existing companies who are the ones chasing the R&D and research. So that'd be in particular your monitor manufacturers out of, say, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan, where a lot of the big technologies come from. We're probably going to see some other technologies come out, with the RFID technology for pay, cryptocurrencies, etc. We don't know how that's going to be implemented into the market yet. There's obviously talk in Australia, for example, in New South Wales, to change into a different system for remove bills and go into a card. What technology they use down there would be sure, but there's a lot of skepticism as well globally about where they see payment and payment options and what online platforms can do. And that'll be, I think it will come down to regulators at the end of the day and how they see that implemented, what technologies can be used.
Why do you think that there's skepticism? Skepticism on the part of the operators, or?
I guess it's more on the regulator side of things. I think it's a sensitive topic, gaming at the best of times, and bringing new technologies and new forms of payment into it. It does expose a lot of things. It exposes not only from an operating side of view, player information and player data, spend, obviously, what data is taken and collected out of the market, which I think the regulators will really struggle with, and also what sort of monitoring is occurring on the back end. I mean, there's a lot of countries globally that track their player movement very heavily, whether it's money spent locally or abroad. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that all plays out first, and which jurisdictions really do take the gamble, pardon the pun, but to try something and see if it works. And then I think the technology side of things will step up, and there'll be a solution provided. That's obviously going to be, there's multiple, I'd say, solutions available, probably the best way to put it, but how they can be adapted from a regular day payment system into the gaming market to tick all those boxes I mentioned before, I think that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Going back a bit to something you were just saying about some of these newer products that we might see a few years down the line, like holograms, and can you tell us anything more about that? I mean, how is that going to be incorporated? How does that work?
The technology's there. They've obviously been used. We see it. We're exposed to it at home now. We've got virtual reality goggles you can use. You can take your phone, for example, and throw it on over your eyes with a particular adapter. So it's there. It's how are you going to get the player onto your machine and onto your cabinet, get them playing, keep them interested, without being too much of a fad and a gimmick, and give the player that experience they want. We have seen some of the hologram features used for special features. It's a cool product, but it was in a cabinet that required a very large footprint. So it was only for exclusive markets. We didn't see it over in Asia, for example, but definitely in the US it was rolled out. The figures we've seen on that have been probably a little underwhelming. Maybe because the player doesn't realize that feature is there unless they do hit the features function. So, I think that there's also the next one is probably the monitor side of things going to be the biggest, where you can have those 3 and 4D monitors that jump out at a player without really being too overwhelming and too immersive. It's got to be something that catches the player's eye as soon as they walk past. So Look, you've also, as a lot of the suppliers to the gaming market will say, you've got to back that up with a game itself. So I think that it's going to have to work hand in hand for a particular game that works and then the hardware works, and trying to find that sweet spot and between the two will be tough, but they'll get it eventually.
What about this something else that seems to be sort of creeping in on the sidelines, and particularly a possibility in the Philippines of some of the land-based operators being able to take online bets. In terms of the technology and the supply side of that, I mean, how much of an opportunity is that, or is it quite limited, do you think?
When you look at online gaming in particular and what goes on, obviously for the industry I'm in, I wouldn't say it's a concern. It's always going to be there, but is that going to pull the players away from a traditional casino? I think we've already seen the evolution of a gambler change dramatically over the past 10 years, and the younger generation don't seem to be attracted to a casino as maybe they were 10, 15 years ago. But how you're going to change that client or take them away from instantaneous gratification, which we seem to have with our mobile phones every day, and pull them into a gaming venue. I mean, that's the question for the operators that you've got to ask. I think from our point of view as a hardware, we have to try and find obviously solutions that can make things a lot more appealing, a lot more attractive to the player at a minimal cost, and really suggest those to our clients, and try and make the gaming floor, which a lot of them seem a little bit tired, a little bit old, but make it a little bit easier to modernize and really bring some of that instant gratification back to the gaming floor.